All right, everybody, we are live. We are talking about autism today. Please come on in, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Thank you for coming in. We just barely went live, and so as you start coming in, please hit the hearts. Please tap the screen. Sends it out to more people. So just give it a few minutes, and we'll get more people in here very quickly. We're talking about autism today, everybody. That is the theme of the live today, is autism. If you're a parent of a child with autism, if you have autism, if you're curious about what autism is, you are in the right place. Quite often, this stream ends up being almost a village where we can share our challenges and our successes and our wins. For you autism parents out there, be thinking, what are some wins that you've had? What are some successes that you've had? That's something I like to get started with here today. I have so many. Guys, my 2 days ago, my daughter was diagnosed with autism. I have a 3.5-year-old son with autism, and then now my 1.5-year-old daughter is diagnosed with autism. And yesterday, it was beautiful to see they have started playing together. I mean, it's been hard to see that. I mean, two kids with autism, sometimes they just get into their own worlds. But yesterday, I mean, they just really started to interact with each other and play with each other. And I mean, I was so grateful. It was so beautiful to see. Thank you for tapping on the screen, you guys. Infinite says my daughter is starting to play with her siblings. Oh my gosh, that's a win, you guys. That is a huge win. I'm a little bit later starting my live, and I'm an hour later. It usually takes a few minutes to get everyone in here, but I'm hoping to have 100 to 200 people in here is my kind of norm. Sometimes I've had as many as 500 people in here, and we just talk about autism. Choco says my 2-year-old was diagnosed last month. He got accepted in IEP last month. Your child must be turning 3 then, is that right? Usually they start the IEP process at 3. Okay, Infinite says, what are your thoughts on mental health therapy for children with autism? Hey, Lexi, good to see you. Mental health therapy is very interesting for children with autism. I mean, interesting in the sense that it can be very effective. You have to know autism, though. I would really recommend with mental health therapy. There is definitely a time and place for it. If your kid can't communicate well, mental health therapy is a challenge. But if you have a highly verbal child with autism, mental health therapy can be incredible. CBuff says, I'm struggling with 504 versus IEP for my 6-year-old. Sadia says, hold on first. Jessis says, do you perhaps know any trans autistic people? I do. I know quite a few people that have autism and are also transgender. Sadie says, is camel milk good? I have heard that that's kind of a pseudoscience thing. Let me look into this. Let's look into research of camel milk. Here's the thing, guys. I know a lot about autism. Let me tell you my background while I look into this, but I'm not afraid to say if I don't know something. And we learn together. We look things up. My background is I have a 3.5-year-old with autism. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter with autism. And I'm a board certified behavior analyst. I've worked with people with autism and other disabilities since 2013. And I'm currently the CEO of a company that provides autism services in the state of Utah. So let's take a look here. Double-blind study reported that camel milk for 2 weeks was associated with improved autism severity ratings. Meta-analysis. 2024 meta-analysis conclude camel milk may improve some social behaviors. Prior meta-analysis was retracted. Interesting. So as of right now, okay, there is some good theory. There is some optimistic research with camel milk. Okay, however, there's not enough good evidence that it improves autism characteristics, even though there are some theories about antioxidants. You also have to be, it is not recommended because a lot of the camel milk that people consume for this carries foodborne pathogens. So that's not something that I would recommend. I'll need to look into it a little bit more to have more statistics on hand, but my preliminary research, it doesn't look like there's sufficient evidence to say that that is something worth your time. Here's my thing, guys. If you're an autism parent, you know that your time is precious. Your resources are precious. None of us have enough money. None of us have enough time. And what we find is that we are desperate. We will do anything for our children with autism. We want to give them the best chance at life. But what that does is it makes us very prone to be marketed to. And it's very predatory. What people do is they make you feel like you're a failure of a parent unless you buy their product. They make you feel like you're a failure of a parent unless you dedicate all your time to do the things that they're marketing for you to do. And so what I push on my channel a lot is, and if you look, I'm not selling anything. I've been approached by so many supplement companies and autism companies wanting me to sponsor them. And what I see from it is like, I'm not going to try to, I never want to be compromised in a way that makes me pressure people to do services or buy things with false hope that it's going to help their child with autism. And so I haven't accepted any of those. My big takeaway is that your kid needs you not just for a week or two, not just for a year, but your child may need your support for 20 years, for their whole life, maybe. And you really need to pace yourself. You can't do everything all at once. And you really need to start with the things that are the highest reward and the least amount of effort and work. Because the moment you start trying to really restrict your kid's diet and, do a lot of these things that are expensive, pay 20 grand for stem cell therapy or something like that's where your resources get taken from you, your time and all of your money for things that are not shown to be beneficial when you could be putting those resources to things that actually help. Monty Mouse says, my daughter was just diagnosed. Don't know what the next step is. Let me break it down for you. Your very first step, let me ask you this, Mon. Do you have, Mon, a village? Do you have support? Do you have people helping you? Do you have, someone you can call if you need to go to the emergency room? Do you have someone you can call who can, so that you can go have a date night? That's where I start. Okay. If you're a parent and you take care of a child with autism, before you start thinking about therapies and before you start thinking about diets or anything like that, you need to first build your village. Build your village. After you build your village, you go and you get your diagnosis. It sounds like, Mon, you already have a diagnosis for your child. And then that's the second step. Step 3 is what you'd be on. If you do have a village, you're on step 3. And that's not trying to find all the different diets and things like that. Not trying to detox, not trying to do creative therapies. All you're trying to do is do the real basic stuff, the stuff that doesn't work overnight, the stuff that takes years. This is stuff like ABA therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. If your child is fully verbal and it can benefit them, mental health therapy. What you're going to do in this third step is you build your care team. You don't need to be the expert. You can trust that ABA, and here's an interesting thing, ABA, occupational therapy, or speech therapy, they weren't always the standard for treatment for autism. They used to be fringe science. And so there are treatments right now that probably have value, but they're still in the research side of things. But these are OT, PT, speech, ABA are things that have been researched extensively, that you know that you are doing the most amount of good that you can for your child by doing these things. And so build your care team. Take the weight off your shoulders and find a behavior analyst, find an occupational therapist, find a speech therapist, and build your care team. That's your next step, Mon. That's your next step. Okay, let's keep looking. Let's see. What are your thoughts on whole body vibration protocol? That's a good question. Let's look into it some more. My question is, what is it trying to address? What is it trying to address? Whole body vibration. What causes autism, Maria says? It's a good question. I will answer that in a second. Okay, so the whole body vibration, there are things that can improve balance, leg strength. So a lot of posture control and gross motor skills can improve. So if your child struggles with like motor coordination, balance, low muscle tone, absolutely, that stuff can help. What you're going to look out for, though, is a lot of these, like, people try to get you in to get their services, and you really need to be careful, because if they're making claims that it's going to address autism characteristics, there's not research to show that. So if something sounds off to you, if people are overpromising, you see this a lot. There are some chiropractors that try to do some things of like, and not all chiropractors, but there are some that'll do some things for saying that it helps with autism when like the vagal nerve and stuff like that, that they can adjust things a certain way that make it so the flight or fight response don't respond. And none of that has been shown to be evidence-based either. You really need to be looking at the research and making sure that the things you do, really basic, what you're looking at is ABA therapy is going to be amazing. Speech therapy, they're amazing. Occupational therapy, typically they're going to be amazing. Questions on what causes autism. What do you guys think? What causes autism? What have you heard? What are the current beliefs here? And I just want to get vibes. What are you feeling that causes autism? Hey, Destiny, good to see ya. Tylenol, nice, Lexi. Okay. There is still, this is what blows my mind. And I've been thinking about bringing up people that disagree with me at some point and having good discussions, as long as we can keep it not being toxic. But there's a lot of people that think vaccines cause autism. Where does that come from? Does anyone here, if you believe that vaccines cause autism, if you believe that vaccines cause autism and you have a research study that shows it, put yes in the chat. Put yes in the chat if you have a research study that can show vaccines cause autism. Oh, Grand Awakening, what is it? I'd love to see it. Grand Awakening, what is it? What is it? I've been hunting for years. Let me explain a little bit about what's going on. I'm not mad at you guys. I'm not mad at people that think vaccines cause autism, because let me tell you what's happening. Okay, and I know because it happened with my daughter. Is my it's obvious. Okay, so you don't have a research study. All right. Please, if you have a research study showing vaccines cause autism, and by the way, you can do it. Do the research study. If you're so convinced and you're willing to go out and change the vaccine schedule for millions of people in the United States, you better have some studies. You better have some research. Go out and do it. You can go and propose a research study to an IRB of an institution. You can lead the research study. You can be not biased and go and show it. And A says correlation is not causation. That's true, and I'll take it one step further. There is not even a correlation that vaccines cause autism. But let me get to it. Let me explain a little bit about what's going on here. Let me explain what's going on. So, if you have a child, and like my daughter, she was progressing, typically up until about age 14 months. She was responding to her name. She was communicating, and she started to regress, and she stopped responding to her name, and she stopped saying the words that she used to say. And that happened around 14 months. And regression is so hard. I mean, it's like you had a child, and the child you knew starts going away. That is very difficult. That is very difficult. Now, what happens is autism symptoms, that regression typically happens between 12 and 18 months, around the same time that vaccines happen. And so you see an anecdote of this child was normal, they got a vaccine, and around that same time, they saw changes. Now, what does the research actually say? What does the research actually say? Well, first, our brains try to find solutions. Our brains try to find answers. And so I'm not mad at parents who see it with their child and they feel like that. Okay? I don't blame the parents. I mean, our brains normally will try to find answers and solutions. But it's easy to be able to test this. This isn't something that is impossible to prove. And if you're trying to say that there's some conspiracy out there that Big Pharma is hiding this in a secret, what you're doing is you're saying there's tens of thousands of scientists, of researchers who have studied this, which is the largest thing being studied with autism over and over again. You're saying that there's tens of thousands of people behind this. I mean, that's just silly, right? There has been no research study to date, other than the Wakefield study that was found to be fraudulent, that has demonstrated any link between vaccines and autism. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, and I don't talk about like the risks of vaccines. There's real risks with vaccines, and I'm okay if people have problems with them. I mean, talk to your doctor about it. That's not the purpose of my live. But autism isn't one of those risks. And what you do is, especially if you don't have a child with autism, if you're saying, I caused my child's autism with the vaccine, I want to say, quit being so hard on yourself. But if you're looking from the outside into parents with kids with autism and you're saying you did this to your child because you vaccinated them, I just want to say, like, you're so wrong. You're rude. Us parents don't need to hear this. The parents are not to blame for their child having autism, okay? But again, people aren't being like so that belief isn't crazy, you know, like the regression is right around that same time. And there's that anecdote. It's not a correlation because it's not seen across the board. When you look at millions of kids, then there is zero difference in autism rates between those who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated. So what does cause it? What does cause it? I'll tell you. We know that it is polygenic, meaning it is genetic with multiple genetic factors. Autism is simply the way the brain developed. In utero, prenatally. Your child was born, and the way they were born was that their brain developed differently. They're born with autism. They didn't catch it. They weren't poisoned. You didn't give them too much screen time. Well, maybe you did, but the effect of that is not autism. You weren't a bad parent. You weren't abusive. And it definitely was not because of vaccines. Now, there is a medicine very highly linked with autism and prenatal. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's not Tylenol. Tylenol, that study was found to be incomplete. It is not accurate. But let me pull up. There was the one Harvard study showing that Tylenol was linked to autism when taken prenatally. But further studies have come out, meta-analyses that have showed when factoring in siblings, that correlation does not exist. So Tylenol is not correlated. I'm okay to say the things that are correlated. There are things because we know it's genetic, but genetics are the blueprint. And what actually makes it so that genetics, the blueprint, are actuated, are taken effect, are developed, and it is there are environmental factors that contribute, and we should be aware of them. One of them is parental age. So being older parents, particularly the man. If the man is over the age of 40, there is a heightened risk of autism. And so we know that if there's not the genetic predisposition, it's not going to bring it out. But if there is that genetic predisposition, we know there's this link with parental age. There's some other factors too, like air pollution and wildfire smoke and infection in the mother during pregnancy, and being born early. What is that called? My gosh, I'm blanking on it. What is that called, you guys? Early. What is that called? What is it called when you are born prematurely? Thank you, prematurely. My goodness, I'm struggling here with words, you guys. Yeah. So absolutely, yeah. So there are environmental factors, but it's all based off of what's happening prenatally or perinatally. Perinatally referring to like around the time of birth, and so being born like early, or my daughter, the lack of oxygen. My daughter, who has autism, when she was born, she wasn't breathing. She went without oxygen for a while. She had to be life flighted to the NICU, and was kept in the NICU for a while. And so there are absolutely environmental factors that we know are associated with autism, and that in combination with genetics is what causes it. The big thing, the reason why I talk like this, and when I talk like this, I get a lot of people that don't have any connection to autism. They're in here because of politics and debate, and that's okay. You guys can be here. You can listen. But I really want to speak to those who have autism or those who are parents of children with autism. And I want you to know there was nothing within your control that caused your child to have autism. And you see all this hate and misinformation, and quite often what happens is they come after the mothers. It's the mother's fault because she took Tylenol. It's the mother's fault because she took her to the doctor's appointment and got her vaccinated. It's the mother's fault because of how she parented. And I am just so sick of a society that blames mothers and in return puts the weight of caregiving of these children with disabilities onto mothers. Such a double standard. And so I want you to be careful with how you talk. And I don't think someone was trying to be rude to me, but the day my daughter was diagnosed, the very day I came on live and we were talking about autism, and I told everyone, like, I'm sorry I'm late on this live. I just got back and we had my daughter's autism evaluation, and she has autism. This was 2 days ago. And immediately in the chat, someone asks, did you vaccinate her? I just want to say this so that you can put yourself in those shoes. Imagine being a parent and finding out that your child has autism. And then the moment you hear that, your first instinct is, did you vaccinate? Okay? What that does to us as a parent is immediately it tells us that you don't care about our child, that you want to pass blame, that you're looking for anything to blame for the way our children have developed. And so I just, if you're here and you're new to autism, instead of being debating and being political, just be compassionate. Be compassionate. The best thing you can say, hey, Amy, good to see you. The best thing you can say, and tell me in the chat, if you're an autism parent, what have been the best things people say to you when you tell them they have autism? Because I also don't like when people say, I'm so sorry. I made a video about this. I'm so sorry. My response is I'm not. Like my kids are beautiful. They're amazing, and they have high support needs. I don't need you to say sorry. I need support. Asking if they need resources. I love that. It's a lot of people's first instinct. You're gaslighting people by saying be compassionate. Oh, interesting. I'm curious what you mean, Carrie, by I'm gaslighting by saying be compassionate. How can I support you? I love that, Destiny. I love that. One of the best responses that I heard, someone said that they liked when someone said, "How do you feel about that?" And I think that is the most compassionate response you can have. Of my child just got diagnosed with autism, and your response should be, "How are you feeling about that?" Like honestly, that hit me. When someone said that, I started tearing up because I'm thinking, man, if someone said that to me, like that, just opening the door to being able to be to have a conversation. Amy, you are coming. Oh my goodness, when are you going, Amy? When are you going to speak to the legislator? Yeah, Kaylee. Yeah, I feel yeah. Oh, user. People say to me, I can't tell he's on the spectrum. He just seems quirky. How should I respond? See, that's also dismissive. When people have good thoughts, they want to say, hey, like he doesn't look autistic. You're walking into the meeting at 11:30. Okay, it's coming up. It's coming up. So like in 8 minutes, Amy, in 8 minutes, you're going to speak to the senator. Oh my goodness. Okay, everyone wish Amy luck. She's going to speak to her senator to fight for all the families with children with autism in Colorado. They have cut some resources to people with autism, and Amy has been a rock star going and advocating for their child. You guys, that's something else. If you're new, if you don't know much about autism or parents of children with autism, what you're going to learn is that we have to fight our children's entire life. That we are constantly in a state of people taking away our services, of people denying the services for our children. And we are schools not supporting our children as they should. And we're in this constant state of fighting for our child. And so when you're 24/7 fighting, like Amy is, going and talking to the senator, like that is, it's a lot when in turn, you get like questioned and blamed for your child's disability. Amy, please come back after and tell us how it is. You got this. Just be yourself. Say exactly what's going on, how it's impacting you and your family, how it's going to be detrimental to children with disabilities. You're amazing. You have the support of hundreds of people on here, and we're waiting to hear about how it goes. Yeah, you don't need to thank me. I'm doing this for our kids. Amy, you're amazing. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, everybody. Usually I bring some people up. Let me just check and see if my mic is working today. Lexi, can I get you to come up? I don't know if you're on right now. Can I invite you up and see if my mic works?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
It works. I can hear you. Oh my goodness, we are back, Lexi. We are back. I'm sorry yesterday.
Finally,
Guys,
it's about time.
Lexi came up yesterday and started talking, and I couldn't hear anything, but the chat was just saying, congrats. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And Lexi, I came to learn that it was because your child services got approved. Is that right?
So, again, going back to the whole fight thing.
Yeah.
We do have to fight for our kids every step of the way, every little step of the way. And with that being said, I've been fighting since I got the letter in late December for my child to continue ABA services at the ABA center that he has been at for the past 6 months, and I've seen great progress in him. They were cutting the services at that particular ABA center. And yesterday I got approval. It's only for 3 months. It's only until the 30th of May. But
gives time for the lawsuit to go through.
Changes can, yes, exactly.
I want to give Amy a chance. You're about to go in, Amy, and I just want to bring you up and wish you luck.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm about to walk in. I have 5 minutes. I am incredibly nervous. My palms are sweating, but I know at the end of the day, this is a fight that I want to fight. And for everybody in Denver and the surrounding areas, I am fighting for your kids too. This is not just about my daughter. This is about us continuing to get the help and the support that we need for our kids, because they are oftentimes what comes first and foremost in our lives. And I have to stand on that. I have to. And that's what, our conversation, if any of you guys weren't here for it, I had a really rough day about two days ago, broke down crying. I couldn't process how disabled kids were where they wanted to start. And that made me so upset that it got me really mad, and I started calling senator's office. And when I started calling the senator's offices, one of them picked up. That was in I'm a constituent of this person. And so they agreed to sit down with me and have a meeting. And now I'm going to walk in and speak my mind on the things that are being taken away from us, and, try to really make a good impact. But I am super nervous. This is Kylan's shining spot, not mine.
I don't think so. I love doing the politics stuff and advocating and stuff. But you're going to be even better than I could be. I mean, you have a lot of passion around this, and use that passion. Get into fight mode here. Go turn on some pregame music, or let us be your pregame music. Let's get hyped up around here, and you're going to do amazing. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting to me that any kind of discussion of less services for people with disabilities would ever be discussed. And I know it's expensive. I know there's a cost, but like if you can't even take care of people with disabilities in your community, like how are you can't take care of the weakest of the weak. I mean, that's not where you start when you talk about budget cuts. And so I'm so excited to hear how this goes. And I know it's, a first step, and it's just a conversation, but it's a meaningful one. So thank you for having it, Amy.
Yeah, of course. Yep. I'm happy to do it. And like I said, I want to advocate for our kids. No one can stand up for these kids the way we can. And that's just where it is. And so for this time, Twicket, like I said, if you want to start getting involved, honestly, this is what's gotten me involved. Being a part of this space, letting it empower me to the point where I understand and recognize at this point that I have a voice, and my voice counts, and my voice not only counts for myself, but it counts for my daughter.
Yes.
And you just got to get mad, and you got to start making calls. You got to start reaching out, going to town halls. I don't unfortunately have that availability, which is why I went the route that I did with making phone calls, because I am 24/7 care for my daughter. So I don't really get to leave the house or do anything. So I started making calls to senators' offices. You guys can look up your local senators. You can look up your state representatives on websites. And you really just want to start making calls, make calls, leave voicemails, speak your mind and be loud, because that's what we need to do for our kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is just a good reminder and a good example that at the national level, I almost feel like our hands are tied, and we focus so heavily on like national level politics, which I mean, we have to, but at the state, it is so much smaller. Like even in big states, you can reach out to your representatives, and like Amy called just a few and got the head of the chair of Health and Human Services to reach back out to her. And she's going right now in 1 minute and it has a meeting with the senator. It's incredible. You guys have power to do that. Okay. If you don't like the way things are going in your state, use your voice, advocate. Amy, thank you. I don't want to keep you from, are you just in the lobby waiting?
No, I was going to say, you can leave me up here, or I can hop down, whatever. But I am going to hop off, and I'm going to hop into this meeting. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. I love you so much. Wish me good luck.
Or do you just want to go live with all of us on here with hundreds of people?
I know, right? I'm like, hey, Senator, these are all my friends.
We got hundreds of people on here. What are you doing? What are you doing with care for people with disabilities?
Yeah, no, really put the pressure on for sure. But
you got this, Amy.
Wish me luck, you guys. I will be back after I'm done with this, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.
Thanks, Amy. All right, be back up here. All right, you guys, we're gonna.
Good luck, Amy. We love you.
Yeah, good luck. Let's
I love
just,
you too. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to answer some questions in the chat, you guys. So go ahead and be putting those questions in there. Something I like to do, I like to know who the audience is. Of the hundreds of people in here, put a 1 in the chat if you're a parent of a child with autism. Put a 2 in the chat if you have autism. And a 3 if you're just an observer, if you're here to learn. If you just want to know what's going on, put a 3 in the chat. So 1 is, why do I look like AI? I get that sometimes, and I don't know why. If I was an AI guy, I definitely would have chosen a more handsome avatar. But I do have 2 light sources right here shining at my face, and so it kind of messes up the shadow maybe. All right, we got lots of 1s and 2s, and okay, 1 and 2s, 1 and 2s. Okay, Nancy, that's a good question. What's the likelihood of a second child having autism as well? Here's the research I have seen, and it's not super clear. We do know that it's genetic, and from what I've seen, a child has a 2% chance of having autism. Now, if your child has autism, their sibling, the next child down, is 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism. And so that's a 20% chance. Now, there's some confounding factors with that because there's also a correlation of they're more aware, they can catch autism easier. But there is a little bit of a higher risk of autism. And from the research that I've read, and I'm happy if you have different opinions on that, send me some research on it. Love to see it. And so my first 2, I got 4 kids. Oh, Debbie, you're a grandparent. A lot of 1s, a lot of 2s, lots of 3s, you guys. I'm grateful for all of you being here. People with disabilities need a voice. That one car guy, absolutely. I think that's so important. And if we take away their voice, and there's a lot of ways that we do take away their voice, when we make decisions for them and we don't let them have a say. I heard the other day from someone who said that in ABA, they were working on teaching their kid that they're not allowed to say no to an adult. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a terrible goal. You can't have that goal. You need to be able to say no to an adult. You need to be able to say no to an adult. That's an important skill. Have a voice. Be able to advocate for yourself. Be able to say no. Anyway, Nancy, of course. Let me. I need to share an experience I had today, you guys. I was at urgent care this morning. Went to urgent care. About 2 weeks ago, I got an email from my school here in Utah, from the elementary school, saying that my son was directly exposed to measles. And this morning, he's had a fever the past few days, and this morning his entire body was covered in a rash. And from what I could look from the pictures, it was it looked pretty close to what measles could look like. My son is vaccinated, and I brought him in, and I mean, they were all scared about it. One doctor came in and wouldn't say anything. I could tell she was scared because she knew that he had been exposed, and they had us go in through like the side door and everything. And the first doctor was worried about it, brought in a second opinion. They ran some tests and identified that it looked that there wasn't it wasn't measles. So false alarm. And I'm so grateful. But it's scary that right now we live in a time where it's normal for our children to just be exposed to measles when there's an easy vaccination to be able to prevent that. It's scary. Utah especially is having quite a big outbreak of measles, and I'm okay. Like, if people are worried about vaccines, this platform is not a vaccine platform. That's not what I use my voice for. But I do use my voice to ease people's minds around the risk of autism and vaccines. That is something that I really want to ease people's minds of. That if you autism is not a disease that comes from toxins in the body. We know that 100%. People are worried. The reason vaccines come up is because there are heavy metals in vaccines. But at such low doses, here's the thing to be aware of. Your body needs metals in your body. Zinc is a metal that your body needs. Your body has a bunch of metals in its body already. You could actually have every single dose of vaccines. Now, you don't do this, but if your body had every single vaccine that was available into your body, you still would not be at risk of heavy metal poisoning. And so heavy metal poisoning is not the cause of autism. People with autism do not have more metal in their body than people that don't have autism. And the therapies, such as chelation therapy, I heard just the other day of a family that they were doing chelation therapy, and they had to hospitalize their son due to anemia, low iron, because of the chelation therapy that they were doing to try to rid the body of autism. So that it's just something I want you guys to be aware of, that if you have a fear of vaccines, you can go talk to a doctor or other people if you have other concerns. But if it's because of autism, hear me right now and have confidence that there is not a connection that's been identified, and it's been researched extensively. All right, you guys, let's keep looking at vaccines. What about Tylenol and autism? I've been asked if I took that while pregnant. Scott, let me tell you what happened. So that one, there is actually a study that shows a very, very slight, weak correlation between Tylenol and pregnancy. Now, remember, correlation is not causation. We say that a lot, but for science to actually say something is the way that it is, it needs to be able to be replicated. And with that study, they were able to rule out some confounding variables and do meta-analyses across multiple studies with millions of children, and were not able to replicate that correlation. And so there was a study, but it was very weak even in that study, was not replicated, and when studied millions of children, that correlation did not exist. So that one, like, honestly, people that believe that are a lot, there's more study, more research than the vaccine stuff for sure. But even that should not worry you. It is not a strong correlation, and it was not a factor when studied at a higher level. So, all right, you guys, what other questions do we have? Hissy says, I'm not being rude, but how can you speak on this without being a doctor? I'm just an autism advocate. So a little bit about my background. I have a 3.5-year-old diagnosed with autism. I have a 1.5-year-old diagnosed with autism. And then I have worked with people with autism since 2013. I'm a board certified behavior analyst practicing applied behavior analysis. And then currently the CEO of a company in Utah that provides services to people with autism in Utah. So I've been around this a lot. It's my whole life. It's something I'm passionate about, something I'm knowledgeable on. But you're right. I'm not a doctor, and I can't talk about all the risks of vaccines. I don't know them. I'm not an expert. I just know about the research behind autism and vaccines, and autism and these other things. And that's where my passion lies. So yeah, it's okay. If you don't want to believe me, that's okay. But that's just a little bit about my background of where I come from. Let's see. Bethany says, are there any good resources for a kid who is level 1 ASD with ARFID? ARFID, Bethany, that is rough. Put ARFID in the chat if your child is diagnosed with ARFID, or not diagnosed, but has ARFID. Guys, ARFID is rough. This is restricted eating. Usually you see a child with ARFID or a person with ARFID has, just a handful of foods that they're able to eat. And there is a correlation between autism and comorbidity of ARFID. A lot of our kids are, a lot of our kids are picky eaters. And you just say picky eater, but sometimes when it gets to the point that there's a risk of not being able to have the nutrition they need. One of the one of the things that really frustrates me, if you have a child with ARFID, have you ever heard someone tell you that you just make the food that you're making and they can go to bed hungry if they don't eat it? Almost as if like old school parenting and force them to eat it or go to bed hungry. Do you guys ever get that input, that recommendation? That is some of the most
Some people
dangerous.
don't know what ARFID is. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, thanks, Lexi. So ARFID is very strict. Let me make sure I define it right. But as far as my kids don't have ARFID, but I have worked with people that have ARFID, and it's very restricted eating, where you have only a few safe foods. Let me look at this and get a very clear definition. Avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. It's an eating disorder recognized in the DSM-5 that involves significant restriction of food intake, but not because of body image concerns. So it's not anorexia. It is like just extreme avoidance or resistance to food. And yeah, a lot of people, oh my gosh, it is the most ignorant thing to tell a parent of an ARFID parent or of an ARFID child to just force them to eat it. Just make them go to bed hungry. There are people with ARFID that will go to bed hungry every night, not have the nutrients that they need, and then require a G tube to get their nutrients through liquids going directly into their stomach. And so this isn't as simple as like eat what we make or go to bed hungry. Like that is extremely harmful. So if you have a child with ARFID, you need to be number one, remember that fed is best. Safe foods are okay. That if all your kid eats is chicken nuggets, pizza, and French fries, that's what they're going to have for now, because they're going to be fed, and you're not going to let their stomach be empty. And you're going to make sure that they're not experiencing anxiety 24/7 around food. We're going to get them safe food. But number two, you can show improvement. You need to start feeding therapy. You need to start addressing this with either ABA that is knowledgeable on it, or occupational therapy that's knowledgeable, or speech therapy that's knowledgeable, and work with your care team. And it's all about small improvements. It's not about fixing everything all at once, okay? It's not about, making your kid eat broccoli today. It's about, hey, what if our kid could tolerate having a potato chip on their plate? Not touching their other food, but it's near them. What if we could get them the next day to touch the potato chip? Then the next day, what if we got them to hold the potato chip for 1 second? And then what if we got them to sniff the potato chip? And it's slow like that, right? It's not a, you better eat this right now or you're going to bed hungry. That is harmful. That is harmful for kids with ARFID. Instead, it is very slow, very slow. And that's what we have to do, and work with your pediatrician. Make sure that growth is still looking good. Okay. That's my other recommendation. If your kid has ARFID, you need to be working very closely with your pediatrician. You need to make sure that growth charts are lining up, that they're getting sufficient food to be okay. So that's my recommendation with ARFID. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Lexi. What is someone asking? I can try to address it. OT is great. Can you talk about how it's used with ASD? Yes. So occupational therapy is one of the evidence-based strategies for working with people with autism. Now, some of the things, quite often, the simplest way of looking at it, in my opinion, of when to go for ABA, when to go for OT, and when to go for speech. If your kid has trouble speaking or communicating, you should be working with a speech therapist. But usually that's only about 1 hour a week, okay? Speech therapy is not very much time. Occupational therapy often is not very much time either. And the occupational therapy, what they excel at is being able to work on sensory needs of your child. They're really good at doing assessments and trying out new toys and tools to meet the sensory needs of your child. And so if your child engages in a lot of sensory seeking and sensory problems, and you really want to make sure their sensory needs are met, OT is really good. ABA therapy is the most funded resource therapy for people with autism that insurance will typically pay for up to 40 hours a week of therapy, where they can work on communication and problem behavior reduction and skill building, including communication. Now, with ABA, they're not specialists in the movements of the mouth and pronouncing things correctly, and they don't have all the training specifically for communication that speech therapists have, but they are very skilled in building skills. And so that's why, like, really, you should have this team of people that work well together. So yeah, ABA therapy, applied behavior analysis. Bubba says, I'm a behavior specialist. It's important that parents reinforce behavior strategies at home. Yeah, if you're doing ABA therapy, you should absolutely be doing the weekly. Usually ABA therapy will fund 1 hour per week of parent training. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of the parent training. I still do parent training. I've been a BCBA for years and years. The BCBAs that are training me on my own child are also the ones who used my study app, ABA Wizard, that I made to prepare to take the exam. And so 80% of behavior analysts around the country of the United States used my app to prepare to be behavior analysts and pass their exam. But even I get that parent training because my eyes are biased with my own kids. ABA doesn't work for me and my own kid. I need an outside perspective. I need an unbiased opinion. I can't do ABA on my own child. And so if I need it, you guys definitely need the parent training to be able to apply the things at your own home. Absolutely. Please prioritize it, guys. Ask your behavior analyst is going to love you to death if you ask about it. And you're like, I need the parent training. Where's the parent training? I look forward to that every week. Please teach me. Oh, I love that. Araceli says, pediatric entry-level OT here. Collaborating with ABA has made wonders for some of my kiddos. Yes, guys, collaboration between the disciplines. There are some really funny clinicians out there that, BCBAs that hate OT or OT that hate ABA, and you don't want to be associated with any of those kind of professionals. The kind of professionals you want, they work happily and they work well with each other. Because your speech therapist, your ABA, and your OT, quite often they're going to be the core of your child's care team. And they need to be able to work well together. BJ says, I'm about to start ABA at home therapy for my twins. I love it. I love that. One other thing to look for, who here has in-home ABA? Put in-home ABA in the chat if you have in-home ABA. I'm curious, how many people do in-home ABA? It is amazing. I have had in-home ABA for my child. So in-home ABA. I want to see who does in-home ABA. Jenny does some. Yaya says in-home. Jess has been thinking about it. Autism Family did it for 10 years. Some are on a wait list. Others are in-home. Great. Yes. Okay. So in-home ABA. One thing that I'll say about this, if you have in-home ABA, something to keep your eye on. Something to keep your eye on is, I'll get there. Rio. I got to touch on this. Is there ABA for adults? My son is 20. Depends what state you're in. Come to Utah. I have a clinic specifically for doing ABA with adults. And so, my ABA company that I'm the CEO of, we do all ages, and we are one of the only places that has a clinic specifically for adults. We have other clinics as well, but yeah. One of the things with in-home ABA, though, that I want you guys to have your mind open to is, what does it look like for the BCBA to supervise the RBT? So if you're new to this, the model of applied behavior analysis therapy is that there's a registered behavior technician. This person doesn't have a lot of training. They're the 18-year-old who just graduated from high school, who is going to work there for 6 months, and they have 40 hours of training under their belt, and they passed an exam, and they're going to be working with your kid for 40 hours a week. Now, that sounds scary because it kind of is. They're not well trained sometimes, and they're brand new, and this is not their lifelong career. But that's how they can get 40 hours a week is using this model. Insurance doesn't want to pay for a BCBA to do 40 hours a week, and that's how many hours your kid needs. And so how do you get your RBT to be good at working with your child? Well, the most important part of ABA being done well is supervision. Supervision is when the BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst, is working with okay, so when the BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analysts, they're the ones that have thousands of hours of experience. They have a master's degree. They need to be doing high quality supervision with the RBT. Usually it's about 10% of the time the BCBA should be there. Now, if you're in home, you are at high risk of lazy ABA. Okay? I can say that as an expert in this field of ABA and autism, you're at risk of lazy supports. And what does lazy look like? Well, if your RBT is walking around just with an iPad and there's someone on the other line that lives a state away or 10 states away and they're just doing remote supervision, then you are at high risk that ABA is not going to be done very well. When you're looking for ABA, if you're looking for an ABA provider, one of the top things to ask is how often do BCBAs supervise the RBT in person? That is what you want to know. How often are you able to do it in person? Autism Family Travel, our BCBA was heavily involved with the RBT. Lots of hands-on. Yes, that's the only way that this works, is if the BCBA is training the RBT hands-on every day, all day. When that's happening, you know good quality ABA is likely to happen.
I have
go ahead, Lexi.
Comment that I read, and it said that this person is an RBT, and she found that the biggest hurdle are the parents. She did say that it's not judgmental, so she didn't mean it in a negative way, but she did make that statement, and I was wondering if we can maybe elaborate on that a little bit too.
Yeah, if you have thoughts on who, do you know the name of the person that said that? If you want to share more thoughts in the chat there on that particular situation, I can tell you some things that I've seen. I have seen sometimes parents that make it difficult to do therapy. And some of those things can be cancellations. If you're canceling sessions all the time, you got to understand the RBTs. A lot of times RBTs are making anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour, depending on the state. So it's usually it's better than a fast food restaurant, but it's not something that can, single-handedly provide for a household very comfortably. And so if they, miss a shift, that can be really frustrating for them. Like any cancellations are hard on them, and it can make it hard for the RBT to continue to work. Let's see here.
So her name is Anything for Lena, and I don't know if she wants to come up and maybe elaborate a little bit more. I think that might be beneficial. I don't know.
Yeah, if she wants to, she's happy to. She's welcome to. I think it's. What is her name?
Anything for Lena. Anything, and then number 4.
I'd love to hear anything. I just put her up here. Love to hear anything. How you doing? Where are you calling in from?
Hi, I'm from Sacramento, California. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. You're an RBT. Are you an autism associated with autism any other way, or how did you become an RBT? What got you into it?
Yeah, so I went to school for psychology, just graduated with my bachelor's, and I did hear that you're very correct. It's not my end goal to become a BCBA or anything like that, but I became very interested in it, and I started reading more, and I've been to with 3 ABA companies, and it is so difficult as RBT to find a good ABA companies that have a BCBA that is there for you when you need them, or anything like that. So Yeah, there's a need right now, I feel
Absolutely.
like. For,
I'm curious your
yes.
thoughts on what you've seen as far as how families can best support their child to make ABA a good experience. I know you said that sometimes parents can get in the way, but I'm a different look at it is what can
Yeah.
parents do to make sure that ABA is a good experience from your perspective?
Yeah, and it wasn't any judgment. I wasn't
Yeah.
like saying, because from what I've seen, it's very difficult on the families when
Yeah.
somebody comes in that's new, is trying to change things up. But I have seen ABA work like really well. And basically, we look at everything like, for myself, anyways, I'm just speaking for myself, but as everything's kind of like a behavior is like communication, especially when they're nonverbal. So I've worked with like really on the spectrum, like we're kids who can speak and then kids who are nonverbal.
Yeah.
But I find that why I say the parents are, it's a hurdle because when we come in, cancellations is one. And so when we're making progress and then there's like cancellations.
Yeah.
Also, in home is the hardest, I would find, because let's say I'm trying to run a target from the BCBA, like we want to reach a fine motor skill or something like that. And maybe the kid runs off and I'm like, okay, like, let's come back to, like, let's get back to this. And, we want to do it again. And sometimes the parents will not like step in or help or just be like, oh, he's tired or they're tired or they, and doesn't want to push too many demands.
They try to direct the session a little bit.
Yeah.
Is what you see.
Yes.
Okay.
Direct the session.
Yeah. I think that's
which I understand, but it could be difficult. Also, I have had parents who are like, will scream and yell and kind of get in the way of like, we're trying to not do that because that's reinforcing that behavior. So
yeah,
I always try to talk to the parents
the
about,
RBT is working. They're looking every single day at the plan. They're trying to do things the same way every time. And sometimes the parents, don't have that same perspective and they can try to run the session a little bit. Hey, I appreciate your input. Thank you for working in this field. I just went ahead and dropped you. I appreciate your input here. I think that's an important thing to remember that. And I saw people asking in the chat, how involved should we be in sessions as a family? And I think that is a question for your RBT and your BCBA, because there are times where they want to work on goals, including you. But there's also times where if you're at home, let them entrust the RBT that what they're doing is what's in the plan and be hands off. So really just talk to them and communicate about and be open to it. I mean, we're all on the same team, and if you do have concerns like, hey, my kid is seeming like pretty tired and I don't know if this is working well, like you can definitely express that as well. All right, everybody, what other question about autism do we have? Let's keep talking. Yeah, Kaya, you keep talking about IBI. Not every state has that, and when that's done in place of ABA, I believe that's what. Are you in Idaho? I believe that's what Idaho tried to do, and in my experience, it hasn't been the same model and the best experience. But curious to hear more thoughts on that. Yep, Yaya says, I ask them how they want the session to go, and then I simply allow them to do their thing. That's the dream for a ABA company. Yeah, I love that. Okay, J7 says, is folinic acid legit? That's a good question. So folinic acid, otherwise known as leucovorin, is very much something I'm excited for. I will say that there have been 5 randomized clinical trials of leucovorin with optimistic results, but some mixed. The largest study, I think, had like 70 kids or something in it. That was a randomized trial for leucovorin. Was retracted a couple weeks ago because of errors in the data that the journal found. And so this just barely happened. It's something that right now is not something widely recommended by physicians. I know it's being pushed at the federal level a little bit more. One of the positives of that is now we have a lot of people willing to try it and willing to do the trials. And so There are some risks with it. It can increase anxiety or increase some problem behaviors if you don't have the dosing right. And so there's a lot still to be learned about it, of what really are the benefits. You see a lot of people that are like, oh, the day after we started it, we saw so much progress. But even in the trials that showed benefit, it was after a while of taking it, months, I believe, maybe 8 weeks is what it was. And so it can take time. It's not a overnight thing. And it's one of those things that I haven't started with my kid because we don't know enough about it. There's not nearly enough research, but I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful. And I hope we see some more trials, but there's also a very real chance that we see all this research come from it. And it says that there is no clear evidence of benefit for kids with autism. And if that's the case, I hope people accept that as much as the community is going to accept it if it does show that it's beneficial. So I'm optimistic. If I were to try it with my son, I'd want to do it in a clinical trial so it's beneficial to the community. And it's not something I'm willing to just jump in on yet. Rio says, also, let's talk vitamins, recommendations, what you think supplements in autism. So here's the thing. There's a lot of supplements that you should give or that you could give to help your child have a lot of nutrients and to be healthy. There's a lot of good diets that are good, but there's nothing unique about autism and the physical body that means that there's special vitamins that your child needs. If you hear a marketing targeted towards autism and supplements, that is a red flag. And most of the time, like if you see people doing TikToks about it, if you look in their bio, usually they're getting paid to advertise for these supplements. And so I'm not saying they're bad. Like their supplements can help a lot of things. Like if your kid has constipation and you need to give supplements to help with gut health or diet for gut health, things like that is great. But there's nothing that, like, you know, when you get a diagnosis, your doctor or any reputable professional would say like, oh, autism, you need to start on X, Y, and Z immediately. Yeah, Rio, there's so many, it gets confusing what's real or good. Yeah, just know that you're doing enough. Don't overthink this. There is no magic pill that's going to help your child any more than your kid who doesn't have autism. And you can drown yourself in the amount of advice you're going to get from people who don't have autism or don't have a child with autism, but also from people who do and swear by things that change their child's life. But yeah, there are legit vitamins that help. I mean, someone talked here. I'm seeing BJ talk about magnesium and multivitamins. I know there's I believe there's research with magnesium and sleep and things like that. My child, we worked with our doctor and decided to do melatonin for our son at night. And we consulted with the doctor, and that's what we decided to help support our child with sleep. Yeah, gut health is good for everyone. Teresa, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. And I mean, I think we can all improve our diets, but I think us autism parents, we're so vulnerable to this kind of marketing because we feel like we're failing our child with autism if we don't address all these things. But then if you have a child, a neurotypical child, you don't feel that same guilt. And I'm just trying to remove that. There's nothing with autism that means that you got to modify diet by default or change supplements by default any different than a neurotypical child. Nicole asks about testing toxins. Usually they're looking at the heavy metals, and the results of those lead to dangerous therapies such as chelation therapy. So I'm cautious about those. If you do any of those tests and it ends with them trying to sell you supplements, that's an indication that, you know, you're doing all this work, all this expense for the rest of your life, expecting a lot of good results. And the amount of, like, if you wouldn't do that to a neurotypical child, don't do it with your autistic child. There's no indication that toxins are related to autism. So Yolanda says real food is best. I agree. Real food is the best. Whole foods are amazing, and it's not an autism thing. It's just a human body thing, you know. BJ's asking about stem cell therapy. That's right there with, you know, it's high effort, low reward. You're looking at $15,000 to $20,000. There's some theory behind it, but not enough convincing evidence to make it nearly worth anything. The results are mixed. It's one of those things that, like, I'm optimistic. That'd be great if there's, some more helpful treatment with stem cell therapies. And but again, you're looking at $15,000, $20,000. I use this example all the time. I'd much rather put $15,000 to $20,000 towards converting my garage into a sensory gym. Right? Like if you have 15, 20 grand to spend to support your child, like, stem cell therapy has mixed results. You're not failing your child. Build them a sensory gym if you have that kind of money. Make a place that's heaven for them to be and to live and to be supported. Lexi, that's a good point. Do you want to speak on that? What you just put in the chat there?
Yeah, I'll speak on it. My son, who is 7. I have to remember to say 7 because he just turned 7 last week. He's 7 years old, and he is on the autism spectrum as well. And I do try to feed him whole foods, but he does have sensory issues, a lot of mouthing sensory issues. And so he likes a lot of crunchy foods. So as much as he'll eat, like, celery, for example, or what other thing does he eat that's a whole food? Oh, cucumbers, because they're crunchy. He also likes chips and chicken nuggets and, like, pizza, that crust. His pizza crust is, like, his favorite part. The crust to, like, a toasted bread. He'll eat the whole bread, but he likes to save the crust for the end. So regardless of food, as long as he's fed and healthy in the sense that he's eating something, I feel proud of him eating. Because, like you said, there's a lot of kids that have gotten to the point where they need a G tube.
Yep.
And that is so detrimentally exhausting for the child, the parents, and everything like that. So if your kid likes the chicken nuggets, likes the pizza, likes the chips, and won't eat the celery or the carrots or the whatever the whole food is, as long as you feed your kid, you're doing a good job. And don't ever let anybody else tell you anything, because it's hard already enough as it is being a parent, especially a parent of a child who has all of these sensitivities and the sensory seeking issues and stuff like that. You need to feed your kids, regardless of what
Absolutely.
it is, as long as they're eating.
Absolutely. I have some more to say on this. And first, BJ, you're going crazy here with the hearts and hand heart. Thank you. That means the world. Let me just say that think of, like, okay, being on a strict diet of whole foods is hard for anybody. That's an entire industry on its own of dieting. Like, people struggle their entire lives to eat healthy. And for us to put so much of an emphasis with autism when restricted eating is so common, the amount of stress and pressure that puts on you as a parent is totally unsustainable. Give yourself some freedom, please. Please don't overcomplicate this. Talk to your doctor. You can push for healthy foods, absolutely. But you're not failing your child by letting them have their safe foods, by not going gluten-free, by not, detoxing and doing all these things that require so much effort. You're doing okay. You're doing okay. I am all for, have you guys heard, like, the 80-20 philosophy here, that with anything you can do 20% of the work and get 80% of the results? I feel like with autism care, it's even more than that. Like, you can do 20% of the work and get your kid 99% of the care that they need. And the rest of that 80% is, like, all of the vitamins and the healthy foods and everything that supports any child, whether they have autism or not. I'm not saying it's bad, but if you're doing that and it makes it so you don't have capacity to have a village and be here strong for your child for the next 10 years, it's not sustainable. And don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. I really push these steps of this path, the parts of the autism journey, which is, like, first you need your village. Get your diagnosis is step 2. Step 3 is build your care team. And most often we're talking about speech therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and ABA therapy. Though there's other therapies. Trent Meadows in the comments is an old friend of mine that I saw him ask. He's going to be a therapist, and he's like, "What role does mental health therapy play with autism care?" And it's a really good question, because if your kid can't communicate well, mental health therapy is done through talking and communicating and being able to speak about how you're feeling about things. And mental health therapy can be really hard for children with limited communication skills, but incredible, so beneficial. I've seen it for people who are highly verbal that also have autism. So mental health therapy shouldn't be overlooked either. But
I think it's also okay for us to have a conversation about, like, it's okay to trick your kids, you guys. Like, it's okay to blend up some spinach and put it in those waffles or in those pancakes. Like, if you have to do that, do that. I can say, for those of us that have kids that like nuggets, that love cheese, because that's my kid to the T. There are dinosaur-shaped nuggets in the Walmart freezer section that have broccoli and cheese in them.
Yeah.
And they are shaped like dinos. They are shaped like little nuggets. Your kid will fall for it. I mean, we're talking about children here, you guys. It's not, Ella Ola is known for this flavorless multivitamin.
Yeah.
If you can't get your kid to eat a gummy, like my kid, it's not safe for her to eat some of these gummies. The pills, they taste terrible. We've all eaten the Flintstones vitamins. They're not good. We're not going to pretend. So get yourself some of those unflavored multivitamins from Ella Ola. Be spreading that on your child's food, whether it's soup or pasta or pizza. We have to work around these kids' needs. Recently, my kid decided that she's going to chew her food and now spit it out on the ground. So we're not intaking the amount of food that we were even a week ago. And it's concerning for me. Obviously, I'm worried that she's not getting enough food. So I'm feeding her more times a day so that we can try and up that intake. But it's one of those things where you just really have to work with your kid, go with the flow, and think about creative things. If you can get a food processor, go to your local Goodwill if it's something that's too expensive for you. Get a food processor or a food chopper and start chopping up spinach, start chopping up broccoli, start dropping that food into normal dishes that your child will eat. They will not notice. If they do notice, biggest thing that I found out is if a child can watch an adult do something, like 6 times out of 10, they're also going to try. My kid had no idea that she liked rice-a-roni rice until she watched me and her father eat it. And then all of a sudden, she started wanting spoons of our rice and stuff like that. Now, if I put a plate full of rice-a-roni in front of her and I hand feed it to her, she will eat some of it. So it's really just about setting that example too. It's okay to trick your kids. Don't feel like a bad parent. We have to do what we have to do.
Yeah. Amy, thank you for that. And sounds like you're done. Did you finish?
Yes, I am.
How did it go? Update us. And we have people who weren't here before. Amy went to go talk to a senator. How did it go?
Yeah, no. So it was Senator Mullica, and he represents my district here, and some other districts just north of the Denver area. And it was productive, but also very, very bland in terms of, obviously there's no changes that can be made immediately. Obviously, like it's not something that's going to get changed tomorrow. But he did reassure me that there are people that sit on these committees, and that includes him, that are incredibly passionate about our kids.
You're cutting in and out, Amy. I don't know if are you away from your mic?
No, I was just in a weird area. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, he just let me know that there are people that sit on that board and in that representative chamber as a whole that do see these kids and, recognize that we're not just faces in a blur of crowd of people, that he understands that this is affecting families. And, I really did stress to him that like there cannot be this natural inclination to immediately start taking from disabled children, because it's easy to take from disabled children. A lot of us don't have the time, don't have the mental capacity to sit there and fight our government on every change that they make. But I really had to sit there and tell him, I went through my daughter's diagnoses. I went through what I spent that funding on. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
acknowledge that there are families and people out there that do abuse some of these benefits. But for the rest of us and the vast majority of us, we are simply trying to survive and to do our best for our children.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. That's all we can do, but we can't do it without their support.
Well done, Amy. You're a good example to all of us of advocating. And with anything like politics, I mean, it's a first conversation that, I mean, over the next little while that they're going to be thinking about as they're, making decisions. And I mean, your face is going to pop up in his head when the decisions like this come up again. So well done. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for the update with us.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I'm glad you got to go do that. And yeah, you were in there for a bit though, huh? Did it go like it was pretty smooth?
It was set as a 30-minute meeting, and we actually did go slightly over. I was in there until like 12:09.
Great.
So it was cool to be heard. It was very nice to be heard. But I also know that, he's up against a fight of people wanting to just consolidate money. And I think that it's important. It definitely is. I became increasingly aware during the time that I was talking to him of just what you said, that now he has a face to put with a consequence. You know what I mean? This is a consequence for my decisions, or my child rather, for their decisions. So I'm hopeful that in the long term of things that can be beneficial for him having discussions. He asked me to follow up with some further information so that he could use me as an example when talking with his colleagues. So I'm excited for that as well.
Well done. What a good example. You guys, please be aware of what's going on in your states. For those that don't know, funding for people with disabilities is under attack throughout the entire United States right now. And the reason that this is because a lot of these services are paid by Medicaid. And there were massive Medicaid cuts that happened in the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, this is not political. We do not, I'm not a political debater or commentator at all. I'm an advocate for people with disabilities. And that's where this goes. And the real impacts of what that bill did is they said it was to cut out fraud and abuse. But the way it's playing out is states are not finding the fraud and abuse that the bill thought that they would. And so what's ending up happening is that states are having to make cuts to Medicaid and funding that comes from Medicaid. And Medicaid isn't just health insurance, but Medicaid funds services for people with disabilities throughout states. And so you need to be paying attention right now to what your state is doing, okay? Utah was looking at making cuts and putting caps on autism services in their Medicaid just a couple weeks ago. And I rallied a bunch of people together. We got so many people from this live to write letters and to help support. I showed up there. I spoke with the legislators, and we were able to get that dropped, and no cuts were made to people with disabilities. And I am just so grateful, but it was a fight, and it very well could have not ended that way. Be paying attention to what's happening in your states, because it's happening. It is happening most likely in your state, and you might not notice it right away. You might not see it, but it's happening behind the scenes, behind closed doors, and people are hoping that we don't notice. So please look at what your state is doing and follow Amy's example of calling your state representatives and speaking your mind. Blizzard says, how can I find out if New York is doing that? Use the internet and do some research of, honestly, what I would do. I don't trust AI as an independent source. I don't quote AI, but it can be a powerful search engine. And so whether you use whatever AI tool you use, even a Google search uses a lot of AI stuff that you can just summarize any current changes to funding for people with disabilities in the state of blank, and then go and deep dive and research a little bit more. It can work as a good search engine. So
in more specific terms, there is a website. It's called Find Your Representative. I'm not sure if it's .org or .com, but it's Find Your Representative, and that will help you. You put in your zip code, and it will list out for you the representatives that represent your area, what boards and stuff that they sit on, what committees they sit on. And it will also list out some of the speeches that they've made in current sessions, so you can start looking at the track and listening to the speeches they're making. Really just know, if you are living primarily in what we call a blue state, you are mostly going to see these changes coming through. It's going to trickle down to other states, but that's a lot of where this unfortunately has started. So just pay attention,
gosh.
read the news, read the news.
I am looking in New York, and they are cutting ABA funding by 25% in April. What this means is the providers that accept Medicaid in New York are going to be reimbursed 25% less. That means you're going to have more providers refusing to take Medicaid. It means if you have Medicaid and you have a child with autism, it's going to be hard for you to find services for your child. This is what I'm talking about. And I haven't looked at every state, but every state is doing this. And it's not just ABA, but ABA is being cut. But services throughout the country are under attack. And it's because of the big, beautiful bill. And I'm not political. I'm not on here commentating about left and right and anything like that. I'm talking about real impacts from a bill that cut Medicaid, trying to say we're getting rid of fraud and abuse. And what states are doing is they're not able to find the fraud and abuse that the federal level is saying that they were supposed to find. And so they're having to cut essential services. 25% cut to ABA Medicaid. In Utah, that would probably put my company out of business.
Yeah, and also know, you guys, I'm not trying to be political when I say blue states. The only thing that I have heard primarily from the research that I've done is a lot of California, Colorado, New York. A lot of these states are being primarily targeted because, unfortunately, the situation that we're dealing with right now kind of puts us under the microscope. So that's where we're going to see a lot of pressure, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere from Missouri to Kansas to Florida to Texas. It's happening everywhere. So you guys pay attention. Make sure you're reading articles. Make sure you're watching the news. Make sure you're Googling, Medicaid cuts in whatever state that you live in.
Let's see here. Maryland proposed a $200 million cut to Developmental Disabilities Administration budget. Missouri is considering $80 million or more in cuts to disability care. Idaho, we already talked about, removed ABA therapy entirely from Medicaid. Guys, this is happening everywhere. You need to be looking at your own state and what cuts they're looking at doing, because if you have a child with disabilities, it's going to impact them. And this is a big deal. It breaks my heart, honestly. I don't know how. Yeah. Here's the biggest things to look for. Okay, there's two main services in each state that are looking at getting cut. Okay, the first one is like services that you bill Medicaid for, like ABA therapy. You could bill Medicaid for it. But the other one is the long-term care funding, so HCBS, home and community-based services. These are like the waiver programs. They call them something different in every state. Like California calls it the regional centers. Utah calls it DSPD. Every state calls it something different. But they're cutting both of these things all over the United States. So Guys, this is, it's big and it's not, I made a video about this a month ago. Like, this is not new, but it's happening behind our backs. They're not making it widespread news that they're cutting funding to disabilities. They're trying to do it behind closed doors. And they make it sound like, oh yeah, we're just going to pay the providers less, as though that's not going to impact the people with disabilities. In Utah, the state did a study to say, disability service providers, are they getting paid enough? And they found that just to provide the current services that they do, Utah providers need a 24% raise. And in that same discussion, their response was to say, well, we're getting cuts with Medicaid, so we're going to do a 10% cut to disability funding. That's what was on the table. It's, I'm not trying to be all negative, you guys, but Amy going to talk to the senator is a really good example of what we all need to be doing right now, is keeping your eye on your state. And senators and legislators, they really do care about families with disabilities. They just don't hear from us enough. And when you see cuts that could happen, we need to be vocal. So, it's a lot. It's a lot, you guys. It's heavy. I'm optimistic, guys. We can get through this. I just don't know. Again, I don't mean to get too political, but I'm optimistic that I haven't heard of clear discussions at the federal level of replacements to the big beautiful bill, but I do know, like, after midterms, who knows if that's going to be on the table. But we're going to get through this. But it takes us being loud and obnoxious and advocating. So, all right, you guys.
I want to say something.
Go ahead, Lexi.
I've been listening. Sorry, I was dropping off my son at ABA therapy. But I've been listening, and it even happened here in Arizona. But a lot of parents did go up to Phoenix, which is where, like, the main thing is. A lot of parents went up to Phoenix and fought also for our kids, and they ended up not taking away those services because we made a big deal about it. So I'm 100% agreeing with you and Amy. We have to be loud. We have to be annoying, because there's not any other way for them to listen to us, like really listen to us, unless we do something about it. And you don't have to go to the rallies or anything like that. You can just send a letter, an email. Even the little things help every single which way.
Yeah. I mean, I anticipated reaching a voicemail, you know what I mean? And I just had a full on conversation with someone who makes very important decisions in the state that I live in. And that's a big step to take in the course of 2 days, just because I, had a really emotional moment. But honestly, what it's opened my eyes to is that this is a fight that I will be fighting for the rest of my life. So I need to embrace it now and just really go head first with it, because at this point, my daughter is 4. You know what I mean? And we're already seeing these cuts, seeing this frustration, seeing this unjustness done to our families. And I will not stay quiet and watch our families be punished for something that we do not deserve to be punished for. We deserve support. We deserve help. We deserve what we can get to support these children and make sure that they are successful, functioning parts of our society. And even if they're not functioning parts of our society, that they have the love and care and support that they need to lead healthy, satisfying lives, because they are still people and these are our babies. Get mad, you guys. Get mad, because honestly, that's what did it for me.
And what we really need here is people who are registered Republicans who have children with disabilities be able to reach out to their representatives and say, hey, look, like, here are my political beliefs, but within that lies we need to care for the weakest of our community. And that fits in, like this used to be a nonpartisan issue where both Democrats and Republicans, we agreed on, you know what, like maybe we don't agree with all social programs, but we absolutely believe that people with disabilities need the care. And so this is not a partisan issue, you guys. People with disabilities need support. And when we're looking at cuts, like your voice really does matter to people. So thank you guys. And Amy and Lexi, thank you guys for being up here. I'm going to drop you both and do the last little bit here solo. I appreciate you guys for coming up.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you. This has been a great day. I still have a little bit of time here. But I definitely have some thoughts that could lead to rambling. I want to share a few thoughts I have. One thing I've been seeing a trend that I did not know how abundant misinformation is in the autism community before I started doing these lives. I say something that doesn't sound controversial, and then I am blown away by the some of the comments that I get. And I've been wondering, I don't know people's thoughts on this, but I was wondering if like maybe one day a week I could do a little bit more of like bring people up who have differing views than me and have a very honest, good conversation about, someone who truly believes that autism came from vaccines or something, and be able to have really good conversation with them. That's something on my mind of being able to engage a little bit more with people. I think what's hard is I don't know that it's possible to change minds just by having conversations. So I'm going to think about a little bit more. But Jenny, thank you. I appreciate that. Scarlett says, have a show about IEP. I was thinking about that. I have a connection of kind of an expert in IEPs. BJ says, I didn't get my boys vaccinated and they still have autism. Yeah, that's the same anecdote, though. Like, I think it's helpful to say that so that people know, like, hey, it goes both ways. But that's the exact same thing as someone saying, I did vaccinate and they do have autism. What I really want to get across to people is that's not what we're looking at. Like, maybe that happened. Maybe you vaccinated your child and the next day your child started showing autism symptoms. And you internally, like, believe that, oh my gosh, that happened to my kid. But it takes someone with a lot of humility to really take a step back and say, like, is my experience representative of actuality, representative of what is actually occurring? And think of it humbly and honestly, Scarlett says, I love how they never discuss the environmental factors or food or microplastics. Yeah, I talk about the environmental factors all the time. None of them happen after a child is born. I don't know if you guys know that. When your child is born, autism develops in the brain prenatally or perinatally. Perinatal refers to like right before a child is born and during labor and delivery. We know that that autism is polygenic, meaning sourcing from multiple genes, functioning as the blueprint for how a brain develops. However, environmental factors can increase the risk of those with the genetic potential of having autism. And so, but those environmental factors are real. I mean, air pollution and wildfire smoke and infection in a mother, and the age of the father and the mother, but largely the father over the age of 40 during pregnancy, from the pregnancy. These environmental factors are real, and they can be slightly connected, but genetic is the factor here that we're looking at. And it's never these things of like, oh, the microplastics in the food that my child is eating at the age of 2 is causing him to be autistic. That's not what's happening. Not that microplastics are good. I'm not commenting on whether that's, how bad those things are. I'm just talking about how it relates to autism. Oh, Blizzard says, I was wondering if autism was genetic as well because my uncle has severe autism and so did his son. Yeah, it can be. It is genetic. It's not always hereditary, though. And I also saw Amy bring up our Discord. Guys, all of this comes down, the very first thing that we all need if we have a child with autism is a community. This live functions as that community. We are each other's community. I go live every day, but we also have a Discord that we can all connect and share wins and our struggles outside of the live stream. So Discord is in the link in my bio. I was an hour late to my live. If you're new here, I'm curious. If you just stumbled across me, I do this sometimes. I'm curious to see who just barely found me. If you just found me today, I came across your For You page, put FYP in the chat. Let's see if people found me on the FYP. Today. I'm curious if I'm showing up there for anyone. Okay, yes, okay. There are some people that found me on your For You page. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and about this live. So I have a 3.5-year-old diagnosed with autism. He's the cutest little boy. You'll see occasional. My page is not about him. It's not his page, but I occasionally post a video or two of him. He jumped into my live the other day, but also 2 days ago, my 1.5-year-old was diagnosed with autism. And so I'm living this from the parent side, but I'm also a board certified behavior analyst. And I've been working with people with autism, doing ABA, since 2013. And on top of that, I currently run and operate. I'm the CEO of Nova Supports in Utah. We do autism services. So if you're ever in Utah, if you're looking for supports, feel free to DM me. I'm happy to connect. As far as my live goes, I go live every day. I'm busy. I'm so busy, but I need this live. It is a source of relief. It is a source of support for me. It's my village. And I go live every day for a couple hours. Usually it's noon Eastern time to 2 p.m. Eastern time. Today, my son, we got an email a couple weeks ago about my son that he was exposed in school to measles. In Utah, there is an outbreak of measles right now. And so today, my son has had a fever for a few days, and then today his body was covered in a rash. And it looked pretty bad. And so we had to take him in, and the first doctor was like, oh my gosh, kind of worried, and had to go get a more experienced doctor who was able to rule out measles. Thank goodness. But just kind of a interesting world that we live in. That's that. I was an hour late today starting this live, so I apologize for the inconsistencies. I'm also, sometimes meetings come up and stuff, but I try to go live every day. It's so fun to me. MJ says, "Is your son verbal?" That's a hard question to answer straight as saying yes or no. If you go he answered a question for the first time about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I actually posted a video about it. That I could ask him what his name was, and he could answer. And that was from, this past year of working at ABA and at his school. And today, his language is starting to develop pretty well. He can answer 4 or 5 questions now that we ask him. He doesn't always listen or look when we talk to him. So definitely has some communication struggles. And we are doing all that we can to support him and to love him. And it's interesting. I didn't think my daughter had autism. She at one point when she was 14 months old, she was a better communicator than her brother, who's 1.5 2 years older than she is. And then she started to regress, and now they're pretty similar right now. They look very similar. People will look at them and think that we got some twins. So All right, let's look at some more of these questions. I have a little bit here. So glad your son didn't have the measles. Hope for speedy recovery. Menti, me too. What a relief. My goodness. I mean, my son is vaccinated, but you can be vaccinated and still get the measles. You're just far less likely to get it, and if you do get it, it's less severe. And so but I'm glad that's not something I didn't want to have to quarantine. I don't know what the protocol is. Getting some PTSD from the COVID days. So. Ann says, did she regress after the MMR? I just want to remind people that, like, when you have someone that says that their child has autism, your response should never be, or, hey, my child regressed. Your response should never be, oh, was it after a vaccine? Because although you're trying to learn, okay, and I'm saying this with no hate, no judgment, okay, just kind of informing that, as a parent of a child with autism, it kind of hurts. Parents of children with autism, what are some of the things that people say that make you feel like they're blaming you for your child's autism? For me, I was asked, like, I told someone my child had autism, and they said, how much screen time do they get? Like, that was the next question. You know what I mean? Like, I say, my child has autism, and then in their head, they're connecting the dots of, what causes autism? Do you discipline? Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that one. Asking us, they discipline. Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, they say I didn't spank him enough. Oh, they point out how I was very sick during pregnancy, Kimber. Wow. Yeah. Miss H says, my son is the most beautiful person. He's so smart, an artist. I wish more people would see the world. Two things can be true at once with our children with autism. They can be a source of stress and challenge and require constant vigilance and be extremely difficult. But it can also be true at the same time that them, with their differences and their differences in how their brain works, can be absolutely beautiful. My son is probably the most beautiful person I know. Not just on the outside. I mean, just the way his brain works. The way he sees the world. The enjoyment that he has in some of the little things. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I can say that while also acknowledging that, man, it's a challenge, and I'd love to get rid of that, some of the challenges that we have. Okay. Butterfly is asking if screen time causes autism. What do we think, people? Does screen time cause autism? What do y'all think about this? Does screen time cause autism? I can tell you that it absolutely does not. You cannot develop autism after you're born. That's not a thing that happens. You get diagnosed later because you can't always tell with a baby if someone has autism, but the brain's already developed. Now you can, I mean, the way you parent matters, okay? The way you parent matters. Being involved with your child matters. But you're not causing autism. Even if you, if you're a terrible parent, you don't cause your child's autism. Yeah, they definitely don't cause autism. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. I could talk for hours on that, but I won't. We can continue to look at this. I'll say one more thing on it. When people say that you don't discipline your child enough, or that your child had too much screen time, or that, the decisions you made as a parent are causing your child to be autistic, they say that from a place of privilege, not having to constantly monitor a child 24/7, not have to clean up poop after they fecal smear, not having to not be able to hear them communicate. And it's so easy for them to ask these questions and say these things, trying to protect themselves and say, I'm a good enough parent. I would never have a child with autism. But what they don't understand is parents of children with autism are the most involved parents I have ever seen. They're the ones who are constantly vigilant of their child. They're the ones who are working with their child, trying to help them communicate nonstop every day, while their neurotypical child learned these things so easily. That is why I care so much about this, because it's so frustrating to hear from people who judge us when literally our entire life is parenting. We don't get these 10-minute breaks. We don't get these breaks of being able to, go out on the front porch and watch our kids play safely in the yard. I mean, no, we have to be standing right next to our child because they're going to run into the road, and they won't listen to stop. They don't know how to say no. Like, we are involved 24/7, and then to say that our lack of parenting skills and lack of involvement and lack of discipline is what brought them into that place, it's frustrating. All right. Melissa says, it's so hard seeing how well behaved my son is while with grandparents, but struggles most with me. Melissa, you know why that is, don't you? You know why. And it's the opposite of what some people might think. It's not because you're a bad parent. It's because you are your child's safe space. Your child feels like they have to go. Your son has to go mask everywhere he goes. When he's with someone else, and with you, he's free to be himself. Yeah, Melissa, absolutely. When a nervous system is on fire like that, and he's holding it in the entire time he's with someone else, and finally he's with you, that means he knows you're someone that even in his hard times, you regulate him, you support him, you love him, you care about him. Yeah. To the one mentioned grandparents, I'm closer to others than my mom, but I still love her as much. Yeah, that's great. I have guilt, Jesse says, for my older kids because all my attention has to be on my youngest son with ASD. Something I don't talk about enough on here is autism siblings. If your autistic child has a neurotypical sibling, put sibling in the chat. I want to see where are autism siblings at. They don't get enough credit. I mean, my son, my 10-year-old and my 7-year-old are so incredible. I mean, to see the way that they're able to learn to love and learn to support. My 10-year-old came home from school so proud, saying, "Dad, I made a friend today." And he was so excited. He said, "Dad, I made a friend today, and he told me that he has autism, just like my brother," but said his brother's name. I mean, I almost broke down in tears. He wasn't saying, "Oh, there's a weird kid in my class." He was saying, "Look, there's another child that I'm friends with, whose brain functions like my brother's does." I mean, these autism siblings are going to change the world. Okay. And so your worry is real of like, we're spending so much time with a kid with autism. But your child, your sibling that is helping care for the child with autism is learning to be the most amazing human being on the planet. A lot of autism siblings here. I'm just reading through all of this. Minty says, how many kids do you have? I have 4 kids. I got 4 kids, you guys. I have a 10-year-old. I have a 7-year-old. My wife tends to be in the chat quite often. It's Haunted Brooklyn if you ever see her. She's amazing. We have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old. And my last 2 kids are diagnosed with autism, which has been amazing. Like I think we're really fortunate because my 10-year-old has been able to help a lot. And it can be really hard when you have a kid with autism and then their younger sibling doesn't have autism. And I mean, that can be an interesting dynamic for a few years. Cindy says, how do I deal with a jealous neurotypical twin? That's hard. we try to make sure that we have meaningful one-on-one time with all of our kids. I told some of you guys here, I recently learned from my therapist that I wasn't dedicating any time for myself. I never had really a hobby. I don't know if you guys ever feel that like my hobby has always either just been work or taking care of the kids, and there was nothing for me that was, when people say, hey, what do you like to do? It's like, what do you mean? I don't understand the question. What do you mean, what do I like to do? I work and I take care of kids. That's my life. And my therapist was like, no, like you gotta find something. You gotta find something that's yours. Find something that's a hobby. So I started occasionally golfing and getting into golf. I'd wake up early to be able to not interfere with the things that I have to do, and it's been amazing. But something that we did for something that I've tried to do is my oldest two. I try to take them one-on-one golfing. So it's a meaningful, father-son activity, and they get quality attention. I'm still able to do something I enjoy, but I'm able to share it with other kids. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's if I'm just alone here in that of not really ever having a hobby, really. I just don't know that us autism parents usually prioritize ourselves. And I think it's important. Autism family, you said in your younger years, but now you say my husband plays pickleball, soccer, and plays hockey. I do girls' trips now. Lexi says no hobby. Ross says I have no time for hobbies. Yeah, I don't have time either for hobbies, but therapist orders, guys. Therapist orders, and I'm going to apply that all to you guys too. Like therapist orders you guys to have a little bit of a hobby. And I've commented on this before, but if your spouse has hobbies outside of the home, you should too. Okay? I see far too often that a man is, they hunt or they golf or they go shooting or they go, out and do hobbies. And all too often, women's hobbies are, sewing or cooking or doing things for the kids. And I really, really want to emphasize with all of you here, whether you're a man or a woman, I need you to build your village so that you can make time for yourself. I want you to, Cindy says, my husband has fishing, I have nothing. See, that's what I'm talking about. I see this so often that a man gets to have a hobby outside of the home because his work is so important, you guys. He needs to reset and be able to be ready to go back and work. So he needs his hobbies. But then the woman is stuck being at home taking care of kids all the time. And I really want to encourage you guys to please prioritize so that both people in a relationship can have hobbies and focus on themselves. And, even if you're a single parent, you need to have time to focus on you. You need a village. And that doesn't have to be every day. I'm not saying all day you do your hobby, but, monthly or weekly, you have something that you enjoy that you're excited about. Scarlett White, I agree with you. Patriarchal society doesn't prioritize ladies. I agree with that. It's frustrating. Be True says you will make time for your hobby if you really want one. Yeah, and what's hard is like, even if you don't feel like you want one, you still need one. Okay? Like you really do. Be True says I started running at 2 a.m. in the morning. Be True, wow. It's amazing. I also feel like, I guess physical activity can be, that's a good hobby. Taking care of your health, that's fine. That's again another thing that I see is a lot of men are able to get into, hobbies of going hiking and outdoors and doing fun things, and then women have to somehow incorporate their kids into their hobby or stay in their home. So let's see. Lost Soul says, do you have empathy? You probably think that I probably have autism, and I don't. I just talk about autism on here because I have 2 kids with autism. But people with autism can have empathy, and it is something though that a lot of kids with autism, they do struggle to learn because it's hard to do perspective taking. Okay. It's hard to see life from someone else's eyes sometimes if you have autism, and it's something they have to work on. Guys, I really appreciate all of you. It's been a wonderful time. I go live every day. I'm going to go ahead and log off for the day, but tomorrow I will be going live again. And make sure you hit me a follow so that you can find me next time. I go live for about 2 hours, and we've hit those 2 hours. So it is time to end, but please hit a follow so that you can Muffin, before I do, I have to respond to your comment. I have a friend with a child with autism I want to babysit. I don't know, something I should think about or do. Muffin, do it. Please go babysit. Go babysit for them. They need you. They really do. And they're not going to ask you. You have to go tell them that you're going to babysit for them. You need to ask them all the questions of how to safely take care of their kid. You need to learn, and you need to go babysit for them. Please. All right, you guys. Please join the Discord. Yes, Amy, thank you for sharing that. Discord link is in my link, is linked in my bio. We do a Discord to be able to communicate after we go live. So, Melissa, I appreciate you being here. Thank you all. I really, I love y'all. I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. And I'll turn off YouTube.